I would like to call this meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. There is one item on the general agenda. It's an item this evening giving us information on Emergency Management Institute training for emergency responders. We have a number of our city staff and public safety personnel in the room. I want to say thank you. I'll introduce, I guess, the heads of the departments, if it's okay with city staff. Public safety, joining us is Mr. Melton Sadler, who we will hear from discussing item G1. Also in the room, we have our Chief of Police, representing our police department, Chief Barry Roundtree. And for the first time, we have our new fire chief, Chief Trey Mayo, who has just been brought to the city of Winston-Salem, and he started his journey here with us. Members of the committee, Mr. City Manager, if you think it's in order, I would like to have our new fire chief come to the podium and say any words that he wishes and introduce himself to the community. Chief Mayo, you are recognized.
Thank you very much. You put me on the spot, and I'll tell you right now, there's not a whole lot I can say. All I've been doing today is gathering information. I will say that the city staff, particularly the fire department, has been most gracious in bringing me up to speed today, showing me around, getting me oriented. The family and I are most gracious for this opportunity. We're looking very much forward to becoming members of the community in Winston-Salem, and there seems to be a lot of potential and will for continuous improvement in the Winston-Salem Fire Department, and we're looking forward to that journey. So thank you very much.
Move approval of the rest.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Consent agenda is approved. Item C.
Information on Police Department, electronic records, and imaging policy.
Good evening. Hi, I was going to present this briefly, and then if there are additional questions, of course, Chief Roundtree can answer those. But he had come to this committee late last year and talked about this proposal in general. We are now at the stage where we are ready to implement that with your approval. Under this policy, the state would approve the ability of the police department to dispose of certain original paper copies of records as long as they are imaged in a digital format according to the policy that we have drafted and we've worked with the state on. I'm sorry. While there is no requirement by the state that we maintain paper originals of anything, the decision of the police department has been to maintain those originals for all homicide cases, for all death investigations, and for missing persons cases until that missing person case is resolved. So we wanted to go above and beyond in those categories and keep the paper originals. The other originals, with the specific permission of the state, would be able to be disposed of, and we would just have the electronic version. So what the resolution is asking for would be adoption of the electronic records and imaging policy, the submission of the policy to the state of North Carolina for approval, and again, we've already been working with them and consulting with them on this, and the approval of the procedure that's been proposed by the police department to keep paper copies in those categories of very serious cases, but go ahead and dispose of the others, and that will free up a lot of storage space and help with costs, since there is a staggering amount of paperwork created on a daily basis for this agency.
And members of the committee, I want to apologize. Ms. Lori Sykes is our public safety attorney, for those members of the community who may be watching, who gave an excellent explanation of what we're doing today. Does anyone who has any questions for Ms. Sykes? Council member, excuse me, White.
Been a long time.
Long time. Happy New Year.
Lori, what I worry about, I mean, I love the idea of not killing as many trees, right? But what about if someone hacks the system, or there is some terrible thing that happens that wipes out electronics?
And that is a very valid concern. Built into the policy and into the procedures that would be adopted, there are backups on a nightly basis of the documentation. The officers who use the laptops to do mobile field reporting, those are backed up daily. And then the backup is backed up. And Chief Roundtree may be able to speak a little more in a little more detail about that, but there are numerous safeguards put in place so that we don't run the risk of just having something wipe everything out.
Councilman McIntosh.
This, I'm assuming that the data storage is not going to be done by the city of Winston-Salem. Contract with somebody on that.
I'm going to defer on that one.
Chief Roundtree is recognized.
Good evening again. The documents will still be scanned and stored through our records management system and our records division. So it's an in-house storage system for the electronic records.
Okay, so the hardware will be ours, management and software will be ours. One thing that concerns me there is that, you know, for a long time everybody thought vinyl records were great, then we went to 8-tracks, then we went to cassettes, then we went to CDs, and now we're all on the cloud. But to move from one platform to another is expensive, and I used to be in the IT business. Should we look at an external source to do that so that the incremental cost will be bigger to us as we go along, but we won't face those hurdles where we have to go from platform A to platform B? Because those can be very expensive changes.
Well, I guess that's something to consider, but we've really been doing this process for a while, but we want to have the official approval to do it so we can stop storing the original paper copies.
Which is really a separate question.
Right.
We're not really talking about hardware costs. Okay. Yeah, I want to carry on that conversation another time.
Okay.
Excellent.
And Chief, I know it's already been stated. I just want to make sure we're clear. We will still keep the hard copies for records that deal with homicides, death investigations, and missing persons investigations until that person is located.
Right.
So we won't be doing away with those hard copies.
Right. All homicides are even though some of the reports are electronic through the police officer's mobile field reporting, but some are handwritten or typed from the detectives. So all hand copies will be kept for homicides, death investigations, and missing persons. Now the missing person, once that person is located, safe, sound, nothing's wrong with that person, we'll destroy that copy. But as long as that person is missing, the missing person report will still be kept in hard copy. For homicides and death investigations, those will be kept hard copy format forever.
Okay, good. Councilman McIntosh.
I'm assuming we looked at what other jurisdictions are doing here. I know the state is okay with it. From a national standpoint, would you consider this to be cutting edge, or is this a relatively routine way for jurisdictions to handle that? Because I'm asking Laurie.
Yes, sir. I did speak to my colleagues in the Police Attorney Association. I didn't check nationwide, but I did check statewide, and this is exactly what most other agencies are doing with these policies in place.
Will this speed up getting information to and from the court system? Will there be any advantage in that?
Not that I know of. No, I think overall for the police department it'll be much more efficient, but I think as far as I know, we don't have any issues with getting them the information they need in a timely manner. And if I may, also this it's in your paperwork, but this process would also include training and updated training of all sworn personnel and all records personnel and IT personnel.
Councilman Burke, I know this is one of the items that you intended on pulling. Have all your concerns been satisfied? Does anyone else wish to be heard? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor of approval of this item, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, Chief Roundtree and Ms. Sykes. Moving forward to our item on the general agenda, item G1, please.
Information on Emergency Management Institute training for emergency responders.
Giving our presentation is Mr. Milton Sadler, who is the director of our Emergency Management Department.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I realize that we're one and only item. We're keeping you from adjourning, so we're going to make this as quickly as possible. We want to thank you for an opportunity to come down and talk about the training that we had. We had a tremendous opportunity a couple months ago, and we wanted to share that information with the elected officials and make sure that you were aware of what had transpired and what the things that are going to happen. Briefly, before we get into it, we need to probably consider a few facts. Number one, this training was conducted September the 22nd through the 25th of 2014. We had exactly 75 people participating in it, and we'll talk in a few minutes about what that means in terms of agencies and other persons who were involved. This was a pilot course. This course is going to be offered nationwide starting in this fiscal year for the federal government, but we were the first in the country to actually endure, I guess it's probably the best way of saying it, this 4-day training. And with the information that they gathered from us and the feedback and after-action information, the course will go forward from here and be delivered nationwide to a number of jurisdictions. We were the guinea pigs. Integrated emergency management is a course that has gone on for a number of years. We last went, and I say we, our local jurisdiction was last involved in this in 1998. We didn't expect this to happen again quite so rapidly. It doesn't generally happen again for a jurisdiction, but we had an opportunity that we were offered that we decided to take advantage of. Therefore, we've had an opportunity to repeat. This was a great opportunity, and we took advantage of it as quickly as possible. There was no cost to us as far as tuition and travel. That was all reimbursed. So there was a small cost for meals, and that was the only cost that was involved. So we got quality training at a good economical price, we believe. The course was titled, Preparing the Whole Community for a Complex Terror Attack. This was state-of-the-art information that was given to us. This is what the latest thinking of the feds is in terms of what possibilities are, what the potentials are for local jurisdictions. They stressed three things particularly. Cooperation, two things actually. Cooperation between the state, local, and federal governments was a big factor here. And of course, the integration of forces. We wanted to do everything as efficiently as possible, and so the forces should be integrated. And we were immersed in practical applications that were actually geared for Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. The personnel came here and viewed our area, looked at our emergency operations plans, looked at our SOPs and all the other documentation and protocols that were involved, and developed the scenario based on what they saw what our capabilities were and what we thought our response would be. As I said, they used current information on evolving terrorist tactics and procedures and scenarios developed by the city, county, and response capabilities. In other words, they looked at how do we plan to respond, and how might we better respond based on the scenario. Now, I want to emphasize one thing, and you see it's underlined there. This scenario was designed to overwhelm us. They knew what we were going to do, what we thought we were going to do in terms of response, and they designed the scenario to overcome the training and planning that we'd already done, which is great. Otherwise, it would be a great deal of frustration. But by the same token, it was a tremendous educational opportunity from the standpoint of learning where some of our plans and operations could be improved. And of course, they tested out planned approach and specific hazard and surface issues. We had several participants. As I mentioned a minute ago, we had 75 participants from a number of agencies. One of the things that I want to stress also is we only had a little less than 6 weeks to put this group together. We were offered this opportunity at a pretty late date, and we had to move pretty quickly in order to assemble the participants for this training. We want to thank Councilmember Adams for joining us. She provided a really unique perspective from the standpoint of being an elected official as opposed to one of the bureaucrats such as us. And we were able to compare those bits of information and make a better response overall, we believe. I won't read all the names to you, but this is a general look at some of the agencies that were involved in the in the training rather. And here's that list continues, if you look at that, you'll see that we had both government agencies as well as nonprofit, private nonprofit hospitals were both involved heavily. And as a matter of fact, that's where we were going as far as what we thought the scenario would be, but they changed it on us at the last minute to switch hospitals. So we had an opportunity to change our response also. I want to say just a minute of a plug, if I could, for MAP for Sight. I think you're all aware of it. You provided some funding for MAP for Sight. That is a tremendous asset to our city and county. Those folks are really on the ball. They've got some information that they can share with us on a really timely basis. And I want to commend whoever came up with the idea to do that because that was an excellent opportunity. We took actually two representatives of the MAP for Sight operation with us, and they were able to provide us with some really timely state-of-the-art information in a really relatively short time. And we look forward to working with them further in the future. Also, the other thing I want to notice, you may have noticed that we had High Point, Kernersville, and some other municipalities with us. And this was a part of our mutual aid agreement. We decided we can't have a resource for every possibility. Therefore, we, on a mutual aid basis, expect to work with other municipalities and other jurisdictions. And we, of course, had an opportunity to take some of them with us also, and they comprise part of that 75. And of course, the last of the list is here. King Fire Department, Louisville, Clemens, some of these other people who would normally get involved in responses within Forsyth County where it had an opportunity to do that. And of course, our marketing and communications department here in the city had an opportunity to really get immersed into this exercise and this training. And I think they really learned some points, and we're working towards some resolution for that. We have some photographs here of this was the 4th day. The first 3 days were training and a build-up. As a part of that training, we were given some scenarios, both written and announced, and we had some newscasts that were geared toward Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. And if you didn't know better, you thought you were here, the way it was delivered. And I think the top left picture, we were getting an updated newscast there on the 4th day. But the first 3 days, we had incremental information that was given to us also as part of the build-up to the actual exercise on the 4th day. And as we went on, we had other people. I think you probably will recognize some of the other persons who were involved in this exercise or who were there. There's Ed McNeil. I wish he were here. He probably would really. I hope he would speak highly of the training because I think he was really, his eyes are open to a number of things that we hadn't really considered and we're going to have to get into. And of course, we went on, on the 4th day, we had a press conference, and Ed had an opportunity to be involved in that press conference, as well as some of the worker bees. I think you recognize some of the people in the room here, and the other photograph. As well as this one, this was an opportunity to continue that press conference and some other people who were doing some other work at the time of the exercise. Now, we had a meeting on the 20th of November with the FEMA representatives. They came back down here and they gave us a summary of gave us a list of their findings. This is a summary of that list. It would probably take a good while to break it down piece by piece, so we chose to summarize the information that they gave us, and we just wanted to point out those things. A couple of things that really stood out. The city county needs to consider upgrade on current emergency operations center space, equipment, and technology. This came directly from them being FEMA people. We're working towards resolving that immediately. In fact, we've already started. We're working with Forsyth County as far as getting a new space for our emergency operations center and doing some other administrative details. We'll be able to disclose all of those things shortly, but we haven't worked out all the details yet, so we don't really want to muddy the water. But we've approached that and addressed that right away. We're going to improve our capabilities and coordination in communication centers, of which there are actually 4 in Forsyth County. Some of us may not be aware of that, but there are actually 4 dispatch and communication centers in Forsyth County. And we're working towards some resolution as far as getting those better coordinated. We do have some planning gaps to be addressed at regional, county, and city level. Intelligence is what they're really talking about there, and credentialing. And we've already started some means to resolve those problems. We have some really good, they left out the word good, informal relationships and agreements that should be codified as plans and actual formal memorandums of understanding, as well as mutual aid agreements. We have some agreements that are kind of handshake deals, and we need to codify those and make sure that they're in black and white, and make sure we're well covered with those activities. We recognize that before we came, and of course we need to do something about that, and we're putting in means into place right now to resolve those things. Also, regional hospital coordination. Now this says regional hospital coordination needs to be improved. We have a group that's working towards that now, which had already started on that, so we can expect to follow their lead on that. And when I say regional, this is probably a good portion of Northwest North Carolina that works together now on a regional basis for hospitals. And the thing I want to emphasize here is that there was, at no time was there any mention of any conflict between our two local hospitals. They work together reasonably well, recognizing that, of course, they're in the same business and sometimes there's potential for conflict, but both at the training and on a day-to-day basis, it is amazing how the two of them work together to improve our healthcare system. We do have some significant gaps. Here's where we talk about intelligence collection, categorization, and dissemination. We're working to get that resolved now. That's going to be an issue probably until the end of time, but by the same token, because we've got people who are, we've got humans involved in the intelligence business, and of course there's going to be some siloing of information and not necessarily sharing of information as it should be, but we're working towards resolving that. We do have some gaps in training and outreach related to search and rescue needs to be closed. One of the reasons that this comes up as a area that needs to be considered is the fact that we're an urban county. We're not a rural county. In rural county, search and rescue is a much more vigorous activity in most cases. But here in an urban county, we don't really have that much search and rescue involved or required. So we but we can probably still resolve the gaps that they're talking about in terms of training and outreach and gathering our mutual aid resources in order to do that. And of course, we've got additional trained personnel and tools for disseminating public information. Social media is going to be, it's become, I should say, a really, really heavy influence on disaster response, has gained a really heavy influence on disaster response. We are taking steps now to work on improving our response, when I say our local response, and we're probably going to reach out to some other agencies to gather some volunteers. This is going to be a 24/7 operation. We've got to be prepared to deal with social media. We've got to be prepared to deal with rumors and all the other things that happen with social media and just general misinformation. It's going to take a tremendous effort, and in order to have a successful response, we recognize that it's going to require more than what we're doing now, so we're going to fix that. And law enforcement, fire services are starting to, need to plan, train, and equip integrated high-threat operations. It has been noted, particularly in the Washington shipyard shooting and some other situations. There were some people who died who didn't necessarily have, who may have survived had they received medical care a little earlier. And of course, the reason was that medical caregivers weren't able to get into where the victims were. So we're doing some work now, when I say we, law enforcement and fire, in terms of getting responders into the warm areas a little more quickly in order to assist the survivors or those with the potential to survive situations. Voluntary agencies and other whole community partners need to be integrated. We've been doing this for some time, and we'll do it more vigorously as time goes on. And I think this last item, they put it in to make themselves feel good, because I don't really, I don't necessarily agree with it, and I don't think anybody else does, but it's all right. So federal partners need to be more fully integrated in training and exercises and response plans. Well, that's true, I suppose, but we've been doing that for some time. Okay, how are we going to do this? Whoops. What we're going to propose to do is we're going to revise our city-county domestic preparedness task force. This was a task force, we've talked about this here at the meeting some years ago, when we had Homeland Security issues that needed to be resolved. We got everybody together and were able to resolve those issues on a timely basis and with cooperation of all the entities that were involved. And in speaking of that, we're going to form 5 subcommittees to that group. And you see the areas that we're going to talk about there. Communications, of course, is going to include social media as well as public information. And community concerns will be soliciting input from some of our elected officials in that area in terms of community input. Let me pause just a minute and show you what the task force looked like, or looked like. This is our task force that we had formed several years ago. These are the players in that task force. The only member that's on there now that probably will not continue is SORT. SORT is no longer an independent entity. It is a part of a more complex organization, and we probably will not anticipate participation from SORT any further. However, MAP Forsyth will be added because, again, they're going to be a viable member of our group, as well as city-county communications. So we're going to add those 2 entities and take out SORT, and that's what the task force is going to look like. And that's the end of our presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about it.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Sadler. I know members of the committee at one point in time, when you think about preparing the whole entire community for a complex terror attack, at some point in time that was a taboo concept. But given some of the things that are happening in Canada, some of the things that happen in Australia and France, I think it's important to ensure that we're always ready and prepared. And Mr. Sadler, you know the number one question when you come to the committee, are we prepared? And I think we're all confident based on the training and everything you tell us every time you come that we are prepared.
Well, yes,
are we prepared, Mr. Sadler?
We are prepared, but we can be a little better prepared now that we've got some insight into some of our outside agencies. It's good to have somebody outside look at it from time to time to give you some insight and give you an opportunity to review best practices. And we found some areas where we can be even better prepared than we are currently.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler, and Councilmember Adams. We want to thank you for attending that training as well. Mayor Pro Tem Burke, and then Councilmember Light.
Because I thought about when we had all of the resources together, city and county, and the question's been asked so many times, are you ready? And of course, I asked for the city manager more than once sometimes through the day, and he always says yes. That means he's depending on the people that we depend on to make sure our citizens are safe and sound. And I know this makes us feel a little bit better, knowing that we have been graded by people who say that we're moving in the right direction.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Light.
Okay. I read a lot, and some of the things I read are after the disaster, after the pandemic, after the terrorist attack, and all this, that, and the other. And of course, the one thing that I don't know that there's a way to prepare for is if our communications are disrupted, that gets rid of your social media, it gets rid of law enforcement and emergency responder communications. I guess the main thing is communication. So is there any backup system like, Morse code or something going back to that?
It's a good question.
We may have to go to that. I hope not.
Yeah.
We have, as I mentioned earlier, we do have 4 communication centers as far as responder communications, and they're relatively far apart from one another, with the exception probably of an electrical grid attack. I think we can pretty much assure ourselves that one will be able to back up. In fact, they're all set up, not all, but 3 of them are set up to back up each other from that standpoint. So I think we'll be in pretty good shape. I can't guarantee it, of course, but you look at the geographic distance between them, it would be really unusual if something happened to all 4 of them at the same time.
An EMP burst of some sort?
That's a possibility, yes.
Yeah. So, I guess once it gets that bad, there's not much except a cleanup afterwards.
That's true.
So.
I'm sorry, then we'll go back to using, tube radios, I guess, because of the EMP.
Thank you.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Saddle, thank you and your team and all of the other Winston-Salem employees that went to Emmitsburg. Quite an experience, I must say. It kind of reminds me of when I heard Common on the Global Awards last night said, what's happening in the world awakened his humanity. And that's what Emmitsburg and all of the things that have occurred after being in Emmitsburg for me. As Mr. Sadler said, and I'm sure our law enforcement would agree and others, there is much still we have to do. We can't prepare as we would think, prepare and we got it, and when it happens, it's not going to be like that. When you look at television and media now and you see the chaos that embarks when people are afraid, you can't control that. And like he said, communication is going to be key. And if the communication system, what we've been talking about in the past, the last committee meeting, and this one, radio was one of the things that they did say we will probably end up there because we take for granted the cell phones and the media and the televisions and computers. One of the instances that they had us was they showed us how we should be connecting dots if we're talking to each other when things happen. We learned from 911 that there were a lot of dots that if everybody had been talking to each other, somebody might have figured out something's getting ready to happen. We got some people that don't like us. The same thing in the scenario that they gave us, and Mr. Page will attest, they said people heard shots that live out in the county. They're hearing a lot of shots in the woods. Sheriff investigated, but it never really came back, you know. Then they get another call report. People said they lost power at their house, whole community. Well, they found the substations had been shot, and the power, therefore, was disconnected, and the people that did this knew they were doing this to get prepared to do what they were going to do. When they found the packages at the fairground one day before the fair was supposed to open, these were supposedly bomb tests. We had to make the decision as a group whether we were going to shut the fair down. They'll tell you, being the highest ranking elected official there, I acted on behalf of the mayor. Shut the fair down, you know. We had a scenario of tankers on 40 blowing up, 2 of them. We could not get people in and out of the city. Did we deplete our resources early for those that were there? Did they go real early, Mr. Saddle?
Fairly early, yes, because we just didn't have anything else. We had to rely on mutual aid and other assets.
But I just want to say that I feel like the next steps for me would be, again, Mr. Page, Mr. Sadler, a review, the next step review of where we are after these subcommittees get their tasks. And I need to know out of that, and I'm sure it'll be part of it, that we have a preparedness exercise that's basically related to what we've learned from Emmitsburg for the community, the county.
Yes, that's a part of our plan that after we have ironed out as many wrinkles as possible to have a test. You know, we always have a saying in emergency management, if you have a plan and you haven't tested it, then you have no plan.
That's correct. That's correct.
So we'll be exercising.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councilmember McIntosh.
To go to Councilmember Adams' point, I think one of the lessons that you learn from things like this is that a silo mentality really works against you in scenarios. You can't prepare for everything, so you have to count on your folks on other levels, your level outside your area, to be able to come up and think on their feet, talk to each other, and pass information around. I think we do that pretty well. I mean, I haven't been here all that long, but just for one thing, the way we hired our new fire chief was a very open public process, and I think that spirit of collaboration and being open and being transparent goes a long way towards building a culture in the city and the county and everybody we touch that, you know, that we share ideas and we don't hold things to ourselves and have our little fiefdoms in departments, but that we work together. So I think I'd like to commend staff for that. I think we need to keep that up going forward.
I have one more comment.
Councilman Brown.
One of the things that Mr. Sadler mentioned too was training. Our fire responders or emergency responders, their whole job paradigm has changed with what's happening now. He mentioned the shooting that took place, whereas our firemen and staff and people, some of them aren't trained yet to go in when it's a collaborated attack or something going on to provide first aid, that they got to go in behind a line of police or military or whatever, but they got to go in, and these are all new areas for them as well. So I want us to understand that, and I'm sure the city manager does and staff. We're getting ready to go to another level of how even we do our jobs, even as elected officials, when it comes to this. Who is going to be the person communicating, or persons, to the community when the community can't get to their loved ones because bombs are going off, hospital is blowed up, and people can't leave their jobs, and we got to be prepared to work together as a team in this war room or emergency center, that we are able to benefit. The main thing is they told us was making sure that our citizens get the information, correct information, and that we work as a team with all of the other areas of the county and other municipalities to make sure that we can make somewhat of a best situation. So I'm looking forward to that task of us doing that.
Well put. And Mr. Sadler, when those committees continue to move really well, if you can bring us a progress report on how we're doing, and Mr. Manager, I have overlooked you several times, so thank you for all your leadership on
Thank
this
you.
as well.
We will bring periodic reports of the action steps that come out of the committees.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sadler, we appreciate your
Thank
report.
you.
My pleasure.
Is there any other business, anything else for the good of the order? Chief Roundtree, I saw his hand. Chief Roundtree, you recognize.
Good evening again. I did want to introduce two of the new promotees in the police department. Tonight we have Assistant Chief Scott Burker. Scott joined the police department in 1990 after graduating from UNC Chapel Hill. He's also a veteran of the United States Army. He served in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. He served in various assignments in the police department. Most recently, he was the captain in our professional standards division. Scott would be the bureau commander of support services.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I appreciate this new leadership opportunity. I've had the privilege of serving the citizens for over 25 years and have met several of you, obviously, in my former capacity as a District 2 commander as well, and I just look forward to this new opportunity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Did you grow up here?
Ms. Burke knows everybody in America. By the way.
I connect with all of them, north, east, south, west.
Thank you, Captain Burkle. Chief Roundtree. I mean, Assistant Chief Burkle, excuse me. And it was Captain Burkle when he was working over the Southeast Ward. And congratulations on your promotion, Assistant Chief.
Okay. I also want to introduce Captain Doug Nance. Doug started at police department in 1990 after graduating from Appalachian State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice. He's also served in various assignments in the police department. Most of that time he served working drugs and narcotics. He also was a task force officer with the Drug Enforcement Administration. For the past 4 years, he's been a field commander in field services, and he's now the District 3 commander. Anything you'd like to say to the committee?
Captain Nance.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I believe I have council members McIntosh, Taylor, and White under my area. Assistant Chief Bricker and I came to it at the same time. As you can see, he did a little better than I did. He's Assistant Chief already, but I appreciate the opportunity to serve the community. I can't help it. Look at him, the guy's great. But
It's good to have a little fun. We like it. We love it.
But anyhow, I do appreciate the opportunity to serve the community and so forth, and look forward to working with everyone in District 3 and maybe my ventures of taking into District 1, as well as District 2, which again I've been as a field commander for the last 4.5 years. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations again, Captain Nance.
I'd also like to recognize very briefly Assistant Chief Weaver's here tonight. He's the Assistant Chief of Field Services, and also Captain Katrina Thompson. She's over Investigative Services, and I think everyone knows Sergeant Powell, downtown bike patrol. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief Roundtree. Is there any other business before we move to close? There's nothing else. We will consider this meeting to be adjourned. Thank you for coming out.